Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome back to the Emblem Morning Show. We're missing Adam today, who is traveling down to Nashville to go hang out with everybody down at the Bitcoin conference. So I will be co-hosting today with Chris. Brother, how you doing today?
Yo, took a late flight back to Vegas last night. So back home, ready to grind it out. We have a pretty fun show, a lot of cool builders happening on Bitcoin, and pretty stoked for it. How you doing over there, Jake?
Yeah, I agree. Last week we had a really good show with Petty, who's one of the co-founders or founder of Runes Terminal, where both of our featured guests will be launching from. And so we've been having a handful of conversations recently with different builders who are focused on, utility tokens on Bitcoin. Emblem also is very interested in this type of idea. So I thought it'd be really cool to bring some fellow builders in the space who are focused on utility to really see, what type of substance we have out there. And it seems like there's going to be a lot more coming here shortly, as we saw Liquidium token also launched yesterday, who's in this space of utility. So for those that are new to the show, I've pinned the live stream. We also live stream this as well, and the spaces. So if you guys could please just repost the spaces so that we could get some other builders in this space. And then if you are watching on the live stream, then you can go ahead and pop a comment in there. If you guys have any questions, or in the bottom right-hand corner, you can pop a question as well, and we can ask our fellow builders on stage anything that you would like. But without further ado, I'd like to start off with Ordeez, who was in the crowd last week. How are you guys feeling today?
Hey, guys. Thank you very much for having us in the space. Yeah, great. Thank you. Unfortunately, I am not traveling to Nashville, which is great, but also sad at the same time. I'm kind of sick of doing long-haul flights. I did a 16-hour one to consensus, and it wasn't the best thing in the whole wide world, but it seems like the Bitcoin event, or the national event actually this time around, is very, very well. It's full of builders, full of founders, and actually full of people that are interested in building within the Bitcoin ecosystem. So missing out on that one, but I think I got to be on this space instead. So I don't know about you guys, but I'd probably rather be here.
Oh, my guy, I love it. So where are you guys located? You're located somewhere in Asia or Europe?
Yeah, no, so we're based out of Dubai. I myself am based out of Dubai. We've got the team scattered across the globe at the minute, and hopefully eventually we'll try to bring everyone to Dubai, or depending on where we kind of end up basing. But no, at the minute, scattered all over the world.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of builders who are moving over to Dubai, maybe a little bit because of the lax laws, or that there's just opportunity to build in a favorable regulatory kind of environment. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself, and also about Ordeez, and why you guys decided to build on Bitcoin?
Yeah, no. So a little bit about myself. So I am the CEO and co-founder of Ordeez. I've been in this space myself for the last 6 years, I would say. I think why we decided to build on Bitcoin was mainly because when we started to see the hype, and also when we started to see what could be built on the mother chain, was super exciting to both myself and the co-founder. I do come from, I don't say this much and out loud, but I do come from a Binance background. So I was building on Binance back in 2021, helping a ton of projects launch on Binance, and it was something that I was quite passionate about. But coming into the Bitcoin ecosystem was something that I found a lot more interesting in terms of being an early adopter or an early mover within the space. So I think from that standpoint, I think we're super excited to build on what we're building on, if that makes sense. I mean, in essence, I don't know, but everyone says it's so hard. Everyone says it's so difficult to build on Bitcoin, and things are not this and things like that. But we actually didn't find it too difficult, and we actually find it more interesting than it.
Uh-oh, might have lost him for a second.
Yep, think we lost him for a moment.
That's okay. We'll hop over to Networth, who's also somebody who's going through the Runes terminal. So Ordeez, if you could hear me, you could just pop down and then pop back up, and we'll bring you up. I think something disconnected, or maybe you got a phone call. But Networth, how are you guys doing today?
Hey guys, we're doing great. We're actually also going to Nashville, so happy to see you there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wanted to go down to Nashville, but I got to stay back and build with our developer for some of the cool projects. Tell us a little bit about Networth.
Sure. So what we did with Networth is actually very interesting developments were happening in the last 2 months. We started pretty much with building a couple of Telegram bots for the Runes ecosystem, like BuyBot, tracking all of the new runes. And after that, we started building a new cool technology called Super Tweets. And most recently, we started talking about it in Twitter and our Telegram with the Super Tweets. So you can pretty much buy any Bitcoin asset within just a couple of clicks, which makes the whole onboarding to this beautiful ecosystem much easier. And we also have on a call with me my co-founder Rishab. Rishab, are you here with us?
And Rishad, you up here? Yes.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes,
GM.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, I think Stan pretty much summed it up. The focus for improve the experience in the space. Initially, that was because the Telegram bots were like centered around that, and then we just spent more time experimenting and testing on many concepts. Like we had a whole platform built out. But then we were like, okay, what can we do to like make, like you said, the onboarding and the user experience far better? And that's when we were like, okay, what if we just brought that trading experience to Twitter or to Discord or to like whatever familiar platform, whatever platform's familiar for the users, and ended up getting onto this, starting this whole thing of like building super tweets, super financial experiences anywhere where you can like share links, essentially.
Yeah. So the Telegram bot, I guess, phenomenon has been around for a little over a year now, or at least where it really started taking off. Recently, Solana, one of the builders on Solana, launched I forget what it was called, but it's the same thing what you guys are doing with the ability to purchase assets directly from Twitter. Tell us a little bit about this product, because this seems to be something that people have been trying over the years, but as of recently, it's starting to get more attention. And what do you think the difference is between being able to purchase assets on Telegram versus Twitter? What are the the positives and negatives?
So as for the Solana project, it was called Solana Blinks. It's quite popular right now and gaining quite a lot of user traction. What we are doing, and we are trying to expand this idea a little bit and kind of create a gateway to Bitcoin assets through all of the social media platforms that we're using as a crypto community. So we're starting with Twitter, but we also have quite a lot of ideas for how to integrate that with Discord and also continue with Telegram. So eventually that will be kind of like, one go place to buy your all crypto assets. And you were asking about the difference between Twitter and Telegram. Well, I think that right now, at least that's from my opinion, like Twitter brings more value because we have here all the Twitter spaces. We have so much more interaction than in Telegram. But, we still don't want to fade that platform. So we're looking at the Telegram right now and building something on our side. So stay tuned for the updates on that in the very next couple of weeks. Yep.
And if I can just add to that really quickly, just conceptually, also one of the differences between Twitter and Telegram was that with Telegram, I think people are a lot more sketchy because the way a lot of the buy bots work is you're expected to let the wallet have custody of the assets first and custody of your Bitcoin, which I guess some people are okay with. But then the benefit of doing it over Twitter, and the way we do it, we're able to just get native integrations with the wallets itself. So whether you're using Magic Eden, Unisat, Xverse, or Ledger, you're just able to use the same wallet that you're used to and you're comfortable using, and you just do that with sort of like, right now it's like you got to install like an additional extension, which is like the Networth Chrome extension as a backpack. But then down the line, you're not even going to need to do that. You could just we're getting like native integrations with some of the wallets. So if you have the wallet, the tweets are automatically super tweets, right? So I think that element of security does help drive more transaction volume on like social platforms.
Go ahead, Hashmax. I see your hands up.
Hey, Rishabh. Congratulations, man. Super excited that I have something to interact with on Twitter for Runes. Excited on what you guys are building. We need more and more people to build more tooling for this space. So just to like double click on how the trades get executed. So is it like if I have my Xverse wallet connected, the inbuilt Xverse swap does the trade, or how does that work?
So no, it's not the inbuilt Xverse wallet. We aggregate it over Unisat, Magic Eden, and soon Magisat as well, so that you're able to like just so that we have liquidity from all of the marketplaces. I think we're going to be working with a couple of the other trade execution engines soon as well. I think Oddsar is building one that's still in beta, and then soon they'd go public, where you have more flexibility with like the exact amounts that you're trading, and you no longer have to do it in buckets. So once that's live, we're already talking to them about having super tweets for that. But
Nice.
right now we rely on like Unisat and Magic Eden. So it's like you'd see the trade. If you list something on Magic Eden, you have the option of both selling it via Twitter to your audience and selling it to like the Magic Eden audience as well. So that doesn't go away.
Got it. So, so this is like an extra interactive way to play around with runes while you have like liquidity from Magic Eden and Unisat. So how does like the user experience would work once it's fully integrated versus what you have now?
Honestly, from like the user experience standpoint, not a lot would change, because I think so Hashmash, you've had the chance to try it, I believe, right? Like you have the extension. You've even I think you've even tried doing a trade. So
Yes.
it's pretty familiar, right? Like it's what people are familiar with, what they feel right now. And even when we have some of the other integrations, it's going to be pretty similar, because
Right.
it's just what's going to happen in the background that's going to change.
Yeah, you need more execution layers, right? With for example, you mentioned Ordeez swap. So I think they're doing an L1 sort of AMM situation, but the custody is still centralized in its first version, right? So yeah, we need more places to like have the fundamental execution there for this DeFi to grow. But well done, man, on your integration where you make it super easy having these super tweets. It's Twitter is huge, right, for our community. So yeah.
It's like we're execution with Odin. We need super tweets for Odin, right?
Yes, sir. You were breaking up a little bit, but did you say you need to build an integration for Odin as well?
I think as well, yeah.
I can't hear you clearly.
Yeah.
You're breaking.
Yeah, I had to mute you. It's your connection was breaking up a little bit, but maybe if the other person in your Networth account could answer that, that would be great. If not, we could just come back to the question.
Is now better?
Yeah, sounds better now.
Yeah, I was just saying we got to do an Odin protocol integration down the line for trade execution as well.
Yes, for sure, man. Yeah, we're super excited to lift runes onto Lightning, give like instant finality. We're going to be working with market makers as a counterparty to every single trade. So you get this new peer-to-peer environment, but it's plugged in with market makers who are holding delta neutral positions. So yeah, what we need is more liquidity in the market. And as long as we're building these pipes, once the market turns more bullish again, as we see more use cases in Bitcoin, like stable coins and real companies launching their token standards on runes, we'll see a more mature market.
Yeah, Hashmas, I agree, actually. The liquidity, right, it's a little bit fragmented because we have two different primary fungible token ecosystems with BRC20 and runes. And then a lot of the on-chain trading is still quite low. I was looking this morning, runes had 2 million in 24-hour volume, and BRC20 was like 700,000, right? So it's literally nothing. And the majority of the trading actually is done off-chain or on some sort of L2, whether it's Merlin or a centralized exchange, right? A lot of people are trying to go to Solana. So I think the Bitcoin ecosystem just needs more financial products for people to dabble around with, and then some type of new innovation to bring speculation back to the market and increase that liquidity profile. I'd like to pass it over to Ordeez, who is also doing something that I haven't seen on Bitcoin yet, and they're building an ordinals derivative product. So I'd love to learn more about how you guys are going about this and why you think this may be like a breakout use case to bring some additional liquidity to the market.
Yeah, thank you for having me back on the market, on the space. Sorry, I had some issues with internet there. I mean, from our side, really, I think one of the first things that we looked into is some of the figures within the NFT space on Ethereum itself, and looking at a $72 billion market share was astronomical for us, just outweighing a tiny percentage of that and bringing it to the Bitcoin ecosystem. Our concept is new. It's not something that has been done before, but in essence, what we're trying to do is create a very niche type of market where NFT holders from the Ethereum, Solana, and we're in talks with a couple of other blockchains who have NFTs, is to bring their NFTs and inscribe them as an ordinal inscription or bring them over to the Bitcoin ecosystem. Now, of course, what that also gives them is another asset or a value of another asset, but more importantly, it brings them to the mother chain. And that's what we're excited to do. It's a new market, and like I mentioned in the first part of this call, we are first movers, we're early adopters. So yeah, we're hoping for a good catch on. I'm hoping individuals or people who hold NFTs or who have done for a long period of time understand the concept and come and use our platform.
So let's go through a little bit of the mechanics of this. So it says here, and you mentioned, it says create an authentic derivative of your NFT by inscribing it as an ordinal and featuring it on our marketplace. Can you explain how this exactly works? And from a derivative, is this like kind of options trading, or is this something a little bit different?
Yeah, so it's not. See, the word derivatives is deriving of another asset. We seem to have the word derivatives as either futures trading or options trading, but for us, really, it's really taking it back and explaining to individuals that actually we're creating a new word in the ecosystem, which is the word or derivative. So it's an ordinal derivative of your previous asset. So that's the key word there. So what we're in essence doing is allowing you to have a one-of-one, and nobody else can actually, or you can never do that twice on our marketplace either. So that's where the word, or derivative comes from. Now it was after a lot of brainstorming with one of our advisors that we kind of came up with the word. There are bigger plans for the word as well, and also the marketplace. But at this stage, what we want to do is just get the concept out so individuals understand actually, okay, so I have another option in the Bitcoin ecosystem for that. In terms of our roadmap, we've got a ton of ideas on how we can further improve, and we're working with a lot of partners as well on further improving the concept itself, but also making this a mainstream idea and concept so people are aware of what we're doing on our marketplace.
Interesting. So let's use an example collection to walk through this a little bit. Let's use Bitcoin puppets. So if I own a Bitcoin puppet, what would I do on your platform to get the derivative? And then what are like the benefits of doing this?
Okay, so it comes from the other side. Now, if you had a Bitcoin puppet, I think very simply you could bring that to our platform, list it, trade it, sell it, buy it, whatever you want to do. I think realistically where it works from our side is let's say you had a Bored Ape. What we allow you to do is bring that Bored Ape along the platform. So bring it to Ordeez. Now there's 5 very simple steps. And this is where it's key here. So there's no fees generated on the Ethereum side. You select your, let's say, so we allow you to open your wallet. You pick the NFT that you would like to create an or derivative of. We then have a filter that we have built ourselves to check, does the NFT belong to you? Has it been traded? Are you the original owner? Is it inside your wallet? What is the metadata behind the NFT? What's the data? Then what we do is, okay, would you like to slow, medium, or fast, depending on what the stations are doing at that point anyway, and the fees. And then we allow you to then create it into an order inscription. Now, this process, so long as, and we've all experienced it, so long as the network is not super congested, can happen in seconds, under 30 seconds. Then what that does is it allows you to then list that on our marketplace. Now, what will also happen is, of course, there's hundreds and thousands of Bored Apes out there, but it will allow you to list it within the Bored Apes category, allow you to create a figure of what you would like to sell that for. And that's where the real fun comes in. And that's where the trading of that asset will start to come in. Now, we want to make this into, and we've had this question many times where individuals have said, well, I could do this myself. But realistically, what we're trying to do is giving you a value or another value of an already valued asset. And that's where the derivative part comes from.
Interesting. So this is like, it's almost like a teleburn and a bridge component. Is that kind of where we're leading this to?
I think so, but this is what so our first word was bridge, and then our second word was migration. And then we realized, well, actually, we're doing something that's so unique. Why don't we give it our own name? And that's where the name or derivative evolved from.
Got it. Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and it's using Bitcoin to kind of its native aspect. So we'll use a CryptoPunk, right? So if I own a zombie CryptoPunk here, basically I'm going to use Ordeez to inscribe the derivative component of it on Bitcoin to then go access the Bitcoin DeFi NFT market using this derivative of the CryptoPunk. What happens? Correct. What happens to the CryptoPunk on ETH? Is this locked in a multi-sig or an escrow smart contract, or how is that stored to ensure that its derivative on Bitcoin is the only one that's actually being used?
So we don't lock, and this is again where we've had a mixed opinion from individuals where they've said, well, you should lock it, you should burn it, just so that you don't have that. And we came back to this situation or this scenario where, well, if I've got let's say a CryptoPunk that is worth an X amount, then if I then bring that to Bitcoin, if I have to burn that, I may not do it. So our whole concept behind this really is, and some people on this panel, individuals on this panel, Bitcoin OGs may or may not agree with us, but our real kind of value proposition here is if you still keep your original asset, we just have another one for you on our platform, and nobody else can make it from that NFT itself. So it's I mean, the best way to put it, it's a expected market. It's something that's not been done before, but we can definitely see some traction happening, and it may piss some people off, if that's the best way to put it.
Hey, I mean, I applaud you for experimenting. I could see the reason why people want it locked, because you essentially want to try to import the value over, right, to Bitcoin. And if I went and had my CryptoPunk on Bitcoin and I went and lent against it on Liquidium, right, you wouldn't want the same exact thing with the same CryptoPunk happening on the ETH side of the lending market, because now you're basically double dipping or double spending in that situation.
Yeah, no, for 100%. But look, we had a conversation with an individual actually who's quite well known within the ordinals Bitcoin space, and he said the same thing. He said, look, this is what you're facing against, and I think our only argument against that, most importantly, is we want to create a fun, a well involved, or an engaging platform, and try to be that one platform where you can do this. Now, of course, yes, locking it would be a great idea, but for us really is trying to be that premier platform where big NFTs can come and say, okay, the only place you can buy an or derivative of that original ETH NFT is from Ordeez or XYZ, or where else they could. And we've seen it happen before, and it's not gone well, where NFTs on Solana and Ethereum have bridged to either or, and it's completely tanked the floor. So taking that into account, it's something that we've thought about. But again, it's a very speculative market, and we're all for the risk, if that's the best way to put it.
As we're just having this conversation, I'm thinking through some of the type of use cases. If you remove the value aspect of it and you just think of, hey, what's a situation where I'd want an asset on every chain, or at least like the reflective version of it, I think it would be really great for gaming. Was like one of the ideas there. If you have a gaming asset,
it's just a start.
What was that?
It's just a start, and like I said, we're built out now. But I said this is probably one of the start of the ideas that we have, and this is the first. I mean, we've got a ton of other ideas that we're doing within the Runes ecosystem. Helping with Runes. There's a lot of Solana plays that happen. Solana is super heavy. We're trying to, in essence, what we're trying to do is trying to convert people and tell them, hey, we're a new ecosystem. Come and check us out. So things will develop behind the scenes, all these. I think this is just one of our first products.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like both of you, Ordeez and Networth, are both starting with a small project or a small product, and then expanding kind of the tool house thereafter, which is the great thing to do, is basically be dominant in a small niche and then expand outwards. The second half of this conversation, I'd love to talk about Rune's utility and both of your upcoming token launches and the utility behind it. As I mentioned in the very beginning of the conversation, last week we had Petty on, who's the founder of Rune's Terminal, and we were going through some of the projects that are going through the Runes pad over the remainder of the year. Obviously, both of you are going through this process, and we're starting to see different types of quote unquote Runes utility projects pop up, right? All of us in this room, and then there's a handful of other ones, including RuneMine, who are on this, who are going through this pad, and then wants to do something with Runes that's not just a meme coin. So I'd love to start with Networth, and I'll have it here pulled up on the live stream as well. Take us through your experience of signing up with Runes Pad. How have they been to you in terms of helping form this token? And then what are the actual plans for the token itself? As for you, Networth, you guys up? Either of you guys?
Yeah. Sure. So the experience with the Runes terminal was great. We know the guys for quite a long time. We've been chatting with them about this or that things happening in Bitcoin ecosystem. Right now, what we are working on before actually going into the launchpad itself, we're working on a very interesting, engaging leaderboard mechanics that will help projects, developers, influencers in the space to actually interact with Networth, gain points, and then exchange those points for the token. And this is something that we're actually working just right now. In regards to our next steps for the token launch, we are pretty much, as Rishabh mentioned, we just released the Chrome extension. Right now, we will be working on improving the whole leadership mechanic, making sure that we are ready for the big adoption. Because if you draw the lines between like what we are doing with super tweets and what, for example, Solana guys were doing with Blinks, one of the first projects that used actually technology for Solana Blinks, they got 200,000 transactions within like 24 hours or something. So we're looking to replicate that success in the Bitcoin space.
Interesting. Yeah. So with the leaderboard itself, if you're posting super tweets or if you're using your guys's Telegram bot or XYZ products that you release here in the future, you're going to be getting points, and then those points are converted to the runes itself. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. But it would be a little bit different mechanics for different groups of people that will be interacting with the platform. So, for example, if you're an influencer and KOL, you post the super tweet, you got X transactions, you will get the points, but you will also get a cut of the commission that Networth is making. For example, for the developers, we were foreseeing that we can invite developers to the platform. They will build sort of custom integration, custom widgets that we can later use either for super tweets or for Discord or whatever other platform we would be integrating next. And if projects would use those custom integrations, the developers will also get a chunk of the fee. And of course, for projects, the ones that are selling runes, for example, this is just a great way to get people buying their assets.
And if I can just add to that really quickly, this is like a concept, like sort of Stan just did briefly. It's great to sort of like, I guess, get some feedback from actual people that have a lot of influence in the space, right? So basically, right now, say you're working with any project, that whether you're like either having them on the spaces or talking to them, there's no real way for you to like, or any of the rather influencers in the space to like get any actionable, not any real returns from like the conversion that they bring. And I feel like with what we're doing with Networth, we actually have an opportunity to change that and also fairly compensate whether it's the KOLs, the influencers that are actually sharing this data through their platforms and getting users and an audience for these projects and actual buy pressure for these projects, right? So it's like if you're talking about, let's say, like a hype mint, and on the day of the mint, a bunch of people from your audience are minting it out. Sort of like, why shouldn't you for bringing all those customers to the project, essentially, right? And I think some of the tools we're building will help enable that through like the super tweets and like the super links rather.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's almost like a built-in referral program, right? Where the influencers or the KOLs, whatever terminology you want to use, can be rewarded for bringing users to a hot mint or to IDO or whatever the kind of situation is. That's interesting. In terms of your guys's IDO here on Runes Terminal, do you guys have any of the numbers nailed down in terms of what allocation will be supplied to the Runes Terminal, or the Runes Pad, I should say, launch, and then the price or the opening FTV of it?
Yeah, so this is something that we are still working on. We are planning to do the TG and the launch around September. What we plan to do, though, before going into the launchpad is to acquire the first, hopefully, thousands of users. And once we will see that the technology is being used by all of the three groups, with developers, the projects, the KOLs, once we have the adoption, we will then go to RuneSpad. Because what we agreed with the guys as well is that you want to go with a solid utility project with a working product, and only then go to the launch. So that would create a positive effect for the community and interest in the token itself. So more news on that, I think, would be announced in the next 4 weeks.
I completely agree with that model. I saw T.O. yesterday tweet something out in regards to Liquidium's launch, where he said that this was the first project. He's basically said it was the first project on Bitcoin, or at least in ordinals, that has a sustainable fee model for the underlying asset here. Yeah, he said Liquidium just launched the first Bitcoin Runes token backed by a sustainable business and a real product that generates fees. This is what the tokens are made for. And along that idea, the space over the last, say, year and a half or so, right, has had this kind of meme coin takeover. Whereas last cycle, right, there was a lot of projects who wanted to build utility tokens, but I think the industry really got ahead of itself with a lot of the promises for what the utility is, and the underlying businesses themselves were not sustainable. And we just saw this massive crash of all these utility tokens. Right, this goes all the way back to kind of the early even DeFi projects, and some of the tokens that wanted to, or some of the projects that wanted to use their token for governance. And turns out a lot of people found a lot of cracks in those systems. And it does feel like we're kind of going through this, this new renaissance, or we will be going into it, of figuring out what utility tokens even mean, and finding some new ideas, and then also ensuring that we have some sustainable business models underneath, maybe a little bit similar to kind of what you see with stocks, to where people can, put some projections in terms of adding some valuation to these tokens due to the underlying business model. I do see Chris's hands up though. What you think of, Chris?
Yo, just kind of for network, or Networth, sorry, referring to, like Blinks and kind of just links embedded in the industry. It's kind of been a tough challenge, as malicious links have kind of been such a huge hot topic and security risk for so long. I was just wondering if you have any ideas kind of how to kind of authenticate the embedded links and kind of offer a safer approach to kind of interacting with kind of direct links in general, so that in order to kind of increase the comfort level of users interacting with the product, or if you guys have put any thought into anything like that.
Yeah, I think that was one of the key objections. I think with every product, when you first talk to people about it, there's things that raise eyebrows, and that was the first one where I was like, okay, what happens if you start having these malicious links being created, right? Especially because we want to open up the platform to let everyone create their own versions of these super tweets and have their own sort of financial experiences built on Bitcoin through the super links. There's the benefit to that, where when you make it permissionless, you make it open, more people can participate, more people can innovate. But the drawback is that you can have malicious actors come in. So I think I've spent quite some time thinking about this. One of the things that gives me comfort just right now, preliminary, like in the current state, is all of your BTC wallets. They give you a very clear breakdown of how the UTXOs are sort of what UTXOs are involved in the transaction, how much BTC exactly is leaving your wallet, what are you getting in exchange, right? Like Unisat, versus Ladder, Magic Eden, they do a very good job at like showing it with their UI of like exactly what's leaving and what's coming in, right? So that's like our first line of defense, where like a user can just be a little aware and they might understand what's going on, and that would solve some of the red flags. But at the same time, I understand not everybody checks, not everybody understands, and like hacks can still happen through something like this when we make it easier. And for that, we've been thinking, which sort of is going to revolve around that token. I don't have the exact flow laid out for this in a way where I can, tell you all confidently that, oh, this is exactly how it's going to be. But it's essentially going to be like a construct where when we are creating these super tweets ourselves, these are co-branded with like the partner involved. So like for Runes, it's going to be like co-branded with Magic Eden and Unisat. And then later on, when people are contributing their own super links, they can ask us to audit them and make sure they're secure, and put like a Networth security sort of logo on the super tweet itself, which would basically be like, okay, this tweet has been vetted by us. It has been vetted by people to make sure that what you're interacting with is safe. And there's going to be like a layer on top of that, which is going to involve a token to like make sure that these super tweets are secure. And then there are going to be others which are more open, contributed by anybody, that like would have a warning saying these have not been audited, right? Like pretty much like how Uniswap works, for example, for the EVM ecosystem, where you have like tokens which are like, yeah, these are legit, and some of these which might be, do your own research.
Interesting, Chris. So have you used Solana's Blinks, or have you seen how they attempt to combat malicious actors?
No, just went through their docs, and just the low-hanging problem that everyone's going to face. Like DYDX just got compromised, or their front end on their website, and obviously the first thing is to advise everyone to not click any links or anything on the website. So even with kind of just added insurance of maybe code tweets or something like that, it's just really hard to kind of get past how easy it is to compromise someone with a link. But whoever figures it out, the market is absolutely huge. So definitely applaud the approach. And I think that moving towards something where co-branded tweets, I think that kind of is pretty helpful going forward for sure. What are, maybe another follow-up question, what are, besides maybe mints, and if we can kind of zoom out into what the future of crypto might look like, what do you think maybe some popular use cases of something like this in from your perspective might be?
I think there's like, all the brainstorming sessions we have with the team, we're like filled with ideas, because there's just so much opportunity. Like any transaction you're doing on Bitcoin right now, in some way, shape, or form, can be abstracted to like this super link layer. Like some are obviously like more standard and basic for us, which are like obvious implementations where you're minting, you're buying and selling of runes, ordinals. We could come up with like more complex implementations where it's like you want to add liquidity to some platform, and then you're doing it through a super tweet, so people can have like a thread where they're like reading the benefits of this, and at the end of the thread they're like, hey, you don't need to go anywhere else and figure out how to do it. This is literally where you can like just click a button, interact with this platform, and like add liquidity to a new protocol that's being built, for example, and like understand what like the user's gonna get as a reward, right? Like, so that's something else. We've also been thinking about like possible prediction markets that work in like on Bitcoin, where like I think Poly Markets is having a lot of success on Polygon, but there's always an audience for like Bitcoin maxis and people that like to keep things on the mother chain. So that's something else that we're really exploring. That like, is that something we can do, where maybe in a group chat setting, or in like a closed community setting, people are able to like create these bets, or create these polls just on top of Bitcoin, and we can have like a financial product on top of that. Also, a couple of like gambling ideas are on the table, things that we want to try out. But yeah, that's not to like not to share too much. But Stan, if you want to add to something, feel free to do so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like like as you said, there are so many use cases, there's so many discussions right now, and I think that the best thing about what we have right now is that we have great technology, and it would really depend on our users and our ideas what turn we will take. As Rishabh said, that can be a predictions market. I see it more as a tool for developers and projects and KOLs to interact with their communities, but who knows? Ideas are flowing pretty much daily.
And sorry, if I can just add to that, I think we don't need to have all the answers in this case, because we're trying to build a product where like people can come in and contribute, and it's always better when like we expand that creative space to let anybody come in and create the experiences they want, right? So whether it's like I was giving you the example with like adding liquidity, or if it's like any other new protocol launching and they just want to create an experience on Twitter for new users to test it out.
Reported ahead on US 101 North.
Sorry about that. And, it's like any other protocol wants the community to try out an experience, they can come in and create it too. So
yeah, I like the ideas. One link that I had seen before, I think it was Wax the blockchain. It was a gaming blockchain where they used links to send or to set up new wallets and to send different types of values. So if I sent somebody $50, it's just sent as like an individual wallet, and you had a link, and that person could open it up and take over the wallet. So there's a lot of cool kind of transfer ideas there. I would like to pass it over to Ordeez and go through the similar conversation that we just had here. Take us through your experience with Rune's terminal and Rune's pad of setting it up. What are the plans for the utility Runes that you guys are planning to offer, and then any details if you can share surrounding when you are going to open up the public sale for this.
Yeah, no, we've had a really good experience with the Runes terminal guys and Runes pad. I mean, I think one of the things I found most interesting about the founders from Runes terminal is the lack of energy, the amount of energy and effort that they actually helped us with in our early days. They were very busy with their launch, but they still managed to always get back to us whenever we had a question or needed advice. And in terms of where we stand, I mean, at the forefront of Launchpad within the Runes ecosystem, so it didn't feel right for us to go anywhere else to start with without them anyway. In regards to our plans, we have a fully functioning and built MVP ready platform, which means as of now you can pretty much buy, sell, trade, create the order derivatives on it. Upcoming updates from our side is we have a private beta for an incentivized testing program, which is going to be released over the next coming weeks. And we also have an ordinal collection, which will be coming out as part of our project in the coming weeks as well. So I think the interesting news that I saw was while everything else was dumping a couple of weeks ago, ordinals was still doing pretty well. So I think that's quite important for us there. In terms of utilities of our project, there's a couple of utilities in itself without going into it, but most of them are based around royalties of bringing your collections from ETH, Solana, etc. We're also looking to build out the Solana aspect of the platform. So we are fully, the Ethereum side is completely working, but we have seen some interest from Solana itself. I mean, it seems that everybody is building everything and anything on Solana. Well, most of that is probably meme coins at the moment, but I think it's just a builder's market for us at the moment. I think we are waiting for the market to change and turn a little bit. I was on a call with a good friend of mine from an exchange, and he said end of July, start of August, they have seen an uptick in central exchange listings, which is normally a good sign that the cycle may restart. I think there was a valid point here, which was, we saw projects not doing so well in the last cycle when it came to utilities, and a lot of people are still investing into meme coins, but I think our time will come, and I think that's kind of what we're also hoping on and banking on, that projects with utilities, much like ours and Networth, will have sunnier days soon.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all kind of banking on here and having this space. I mean, you go back to even 2017, right? All of these tokens, all the ICOs were based off of the idea of utility. And then last cycle, there was a little bit more traction in terms of like figuring out the use cases for these utility tokens or these ecosystem tokens, as one can say. And now recently as well, depending on the outcome of the US election, it sounds like, even people like JD Vance, who's the VP for Trump, has came out and literally spoken about how utility tokens need to have a little bit more regulatory clarity to really kind of open this up. So it could be a really exciting time here. What would you say then is the use case then of the ecosystem token for Ordeez? Do you guys have some early ideas or some longer term vision?
Yeah, we're working on a set royalties fee. So, staking a minimum amount of Ordeez token will allow you to get royalties as long as you keep them staked. So we're working on a few things, and of course, the beta test will further clarify these things. But there's a simple reason why we're going to run this beta test to test out the couple of utility ideas that we have and see which one works best. And I think that's quite important for us. And going on your utility tokens and utility plays, I think the biggest thing for me was I listened to a podcast recently. I can't remember who it was, but I normally just log in off another account to podcast. But he spoke about how the last bull run was, encouraged and supported at the start with the NFT hype, and that's where all of the liquidity was pouring into before we saw the utilities play. I think it's this time that we don't have the NFTs and they're going to come back later on down the line, which of course, as Ordeez, we're banking on as well, because the more hype Ethereum, Solana, NFTs do, the more focus that we can also play with. And hopefully we see the play of utilities and NFTs come back in. So that's something that we are banking on anyway for now.
Yeah, I think at Emblem Vault, we're also banking on that idea as well of, cross-chain NFTs. We're in a similar kind of area, similar capacity, just the mechanic is a little bit different. Can you?
Yeah, I did look into Emblem Vault. Yeah, cool.
At the end of the day, right, when it comes to NFTs, the idea of them or the extension of them goes to a wide variety of kind of sectors. Could be PFPs, could be right. RWA NFTs are really starting to catch some attention, and deepen as well over on Solana. And we see this happen every cycle where they take some idea of the previous cycle that was popular, and then it just kind of changes over time, or right, there's a different kind of twist on it. I do think that's going to continually persist here. Do you have any information surrounding the public sale of the Ordeez token, or is it still being worked on?
Yeah, we're still working on it. I think I do come from a community VC and launchpad background, so I know quite well of how these cycles turn. So I used to work, or I was one of the main kind of operations leads on another community launchpad actually. And one of the things that, like I mentioned, it was the Binance era back then. But one of the things that we saw this time is, of course, we saw a small cycle, but we didn't see it improve. Now, I think for us, really, I think when the public launch is going to come in is when we start to see an increase in listings. And I think, if I'm going to be completely honest here, I think the reason why we've got into this cycle is because from November to March, we saw a ton of projects come out and raise a ton of money. Some of them launched, but others actually decided not to launch, which again held back on venture capital liquidity, held back on investors, whether that's retail, actually making their returns on their investment. And I think what we're seeing right now is a really tough market for projects anyway, where VCs have liquidity but don't want to release the liquidity. Projects need the liquidity, and without that, may or may not be ready for the bull run. Yeah, I think this is probably the worst I've seen it in terms of projects trying to raise money in a very, very long time. But I think this is slow. It's pain, of course it is, for any founder, for any builders out there. But there will be a change, and I'm pretty certain that change is around the corner now. Well, I don't know the definitive answer. Otherwise, I definitely wouldn't be on this spaces. I'd be sat in the Maldives on a boat with grapes and wine. But I think the best answer somebody gave me recently is that with the asterisks, eventually.
Yeah, let's absolutely hope so. We're also banking on it as well. And from a lot of the, at least just Runes focused projects in the utility space, or at least just projects in general, it sounds like a lot of them have plans to start deploying that towards the end of this year. I think a lot of people are just waiting for the market to pick back up. And I also did listen to a podcast this morning discussing VC capital and how they said that this cycle, there's been some larger checks, but not the size that not to the tune that you saw of last cycle. And also this cycle, you're not seeing a handful of these capital allocators, raise 3, 4, 5 funds. They all have 1 or 2 funds, and have kind of been stopping there because of the I think this is just like the dispersion of liquidity and how all these a handful of these ecosystems are all now kind of self-sustaining, right? Like the Bitcoin ecosystem, Solana, and then Ethereum's now kind of bifurcated into multiple L2s.
Yeah, no, I definitely think this might be one of the last bull runs where we see such heavy VC backing within projects. I think there was a panel discussion at HCC that I listened to live, which was, I think the topic was the end of the VC era. And I think as we head into the next bull run, whenever that may be, I think we will start to see more self-sustainable or kind of revenue generating from day zero projects. And we may see a different cycle of VCs, of Launchpad in a different capacity. I don't think they're done completely, but I just feel like this may be the last run where we see such heavy investment into projects. I mean, I met some guys over in Austin, really nice guys in the AI field. And I was like, oh, okay, nice to meet you guys. What have you done? And they said, oh, yeah, we've raised 2.5 million pre-seed. And I said, what have you built? And they said, nothing. It's completely idea-based. And I went, amazing. Yeah, I am definitely in the wrong fit. I'm in the wrong scene. So, that's how crazy some of these spaces are. Like 2.5 million just on a piece of paper. It's not a piece of paper. It was a really good idea. They were building something that I would use, but having nothing built, and they were backed by some of the biggest VCs within the space. So, yeah, in my personal opinion, I think this might be the last run where we see such heavy VC backing in projects.
Yeah, it is quite incredible. I have one final question for each of you, and we'll just start with Ordeez. Since this is a Bitcoin space and you guys are doing it on Runes specifically, or just in the Bitcoin ecosystem, why build on Bitcoin versus Ethereum and its L2s, or just the massive hot streak that Solana's on? Why come back to the mother chain and build in a little bit of a more difficult and immature environment?
I think that's it. I think you answered my question within the question itself. I think Bitcoin is the mother chain. I think we've had years of, these other chains where you had the Ethereum dApps, and you've now seen the Solana dApps come out, and you've seen Solana. So many, founders and so many builders building on Solana. We've not really had that from Bitcoin, and it seems like we all know that Bitcoin is the first move. Or Bitcoin, everything else, it's like the S&P, right? When the S&P moves, every other stock decides to move in either the right or left direction, up or down. Bitcoin is the S&P of the cryptocurrency industry. So when we saw that, actually, well, hold up, there's starting to become, space for us to start to build on the mother chain, and we can also be, first movers on something like this. It was just a no-brainer. It is difficult sometimes. I mean, we've all experienced how good and bad BRC20 was, how much more efficient Runes is. But again, I think it's just a period of trial and error for every Bitcoin builder out there. Would I change? Absolutely not. I don't think I ever would. I'm here to stay. We love Bitcoin. We love what the ecosystem is doing. And from an experience standpoint, I saw the Binance builders, I saw the Solana builders. I think we're the coolest bunch. I think we're most technically advanced bunch. And I think in terms of where most of the industry lies, I think we definitely have some of the most knowledgeable individuals within the space who have seen the longest cycles within the cryptocurrency or Bitcoin ecosystem.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right on the head. How about you guys, Networth? Why build on Bitcoin in a little bit more of a difficult environment?
Yeah, so on why building on Bitcoin, I totally agree with the guys from Ordeez, and that this is this is the legacy, the number one cryptocurrency, the only Bitcoin that there is. And we obviously see that from the narrative standpoint and from the standpoint of, you know, the innovation that is coming to Bitcoin. I think there's a lot of things happening, and we want to be just a part of that. In terms of that, it might be a little bit more difficult to build. Well, yes and no. I think that more of like Rishab and our technical team can add on that, but so far we did not encounter that many technical issues because, you know, the people that are working with us, they've been in different projects. They've been building stuff for BRC20s. They've been building before for EVM chains. So yeah, I wouldn't say that for us it's looking like, you know, significantly more difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it seems to be the main theme across all the people ask that question too. Is Bitcoin has the most liquidity. It's going to be around the longest. Generally has a little bit of permanence, and it's interesting how the ecosystems also just evolved to where, you know, everything doesn't have to be completely 100% on chain for Bitcoin, because a lot of times it's impossible. And it's interesting looking at all the creative ways that these builders are using off-chain components, whether you're using the EVM or some sort of indexer or some sort of server, and kind of piecing it all together. It's been fun to watch, and I think that creativity is only going to continue to expand across all the protocols and the infrastructure that exists on Bitcoin. So with that, we'll conclude the show for today. I appreciate Ordeez and Networth and you guys for coming on stage and sharing the project, and really encouraged seeing a lot of builders come out here from different areas of the industry and generally have a really solid approach to it. For those that are in the crowd and are unfamiliar, Chris and myself, we work at Emblem Vault, the leading cross-chain protocol, NFT protocol in the industry with about 100 million in TVV. We host a show Tuesday through Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Adam will be back with us tomorrow. He's down at Nashville. So if you guys are down hanging out at the Bitcoin conference, you can hit Adam up and talk with the Emblem team. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm waiting for the confirmation of our guest. And then we have the Thursday, our inscription show and market discussion. Please make sure to follow Ordeez and Networth and the Emblem team on stage so that you can stay up to date with all of our projects and our upcoming utility runes at some point in the future. It does seem like there's a lot more interest around adding use cases to these runes as the infrastructure has improved. And so without that and further ado, I appreciate everyone who's on stage. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. If you're going down to Tennessee, please be safe out there. Have a lot of time. And we'll be back here tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, enjoy Tuesday, guys.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for having us.